now that's saved, so now you're going to go to a new layer. And now that we don't need your sketch, we can just delete it. Now the line work goes on the top, and then any other layers afterwards go underneath the line work. Okay, so you're on your layer 2, which is your new layer. You're going to take this select magic wand. You're not going to do that. You're going to go back to your line work layer. See? Now you click it. Now you go back to layer 2. And you take your bucket tool. And you know it's make it a red heart. You just fill it in. And then if you press Control D, it'll deselect lines. That's how I do it. Pretty simple. So if you want to do some shading, we're going to go to new layer, layer 3, and we're going to put it underneath here. This is where I start naming the layers too. So to name a layer, I go into layer and then let's heart. Okay? And heart shading. Okay. So when I shade, what you want to do is you want to go over here and clipping group. So it will basically, you'll go in and anything you shade, it'll be in the heart. So because it clips to the group above it. Pretty simple. Okay, let's just use an airbrush. Now to go in, I found this is really cool. Go into multiply. If you go into multiply and you start coloring, oops. Oh yes, you can turn your stabilizer down, by the way. Your shading, you want it to be above. And yeah, you can use whatever. Marker's really fun to play with. You can make sure give it a nice big size. So basically, we're gonna just recap what you do. So you have your line work layer, which we did the line art on. Then you did a new layer, and you went to the magic wand. You selected the area. You did the bucket tool to fill it in, and then to get the shading, you do a new layer above the colored layer. You select clipping group. And if you select multiply, it'll darken, which, you know, saves you from having to do like 10,000 colors. You can just multiply and it'll make it darker. Right now I'm using the marker tool. Okay. So I have my heart, and it's, you know, shaded-ish. So another cool thing you can do is you do another layer. It's a normal layer. Again, clip it. This one you turn the opacity down to about 80%. Okay. And now you can go in with a much darker color. And then use your marker, you know, maybe like a little bit smaller, and you can go in and do some more shading. Okay. So there you go. And then you're going to do another layer. Clipping group. This one you're going to put on luminosity. You're also going to do it at about 80%. And you're going to take your original color, which I do believe was this one. This is where the highlights come in, so yeah, you want to have a smaller brush for this, like usually, let's do this. You go in and go wee, and then you can kind of go in and highlight. It's fun. Now, it looks kind of messy right now, but this is where you can have some fun. So you go into your shading. Well, I have a blend tool. These are the settings I use. They work really well. I know there's a blur tool, so that comes standard, so you can use your blur tool. And you go in and you make small circular motions with the shading you already did in the first shading layer. And you just kind of go in and make small circles. Okay, and then you go into your other shading, and same thing, you just make small circles. Small circles. More small circles. Fun, fun, small circles. Okay. Alright, and then you go into your highlights, and same thing. Just circles seem to work the best, but I mean, you can experiment. There you go. Look at that. Pretty cool. And the reason why you have the line work layer, this is where it gets really fun, because if you go into weight, you see how it goes from 1 to like 30. So let's click on the 30, let's say. Let's go click on our line. Becomes thick. Click on a 1, becomes very thin. So in this sense, you can go around and make your lines thick or thin, depending on where they are. I usually start off with my lines around 2 to 3, and then I'll go in later and I'll make them smaller. And then if you go into color, you know, I'm not one for black liner. I think black's a very harsh color, and I mean, I don't actually like using pure black even. When I'm drawing black pants, I'll usually use a shade that's slightly lighter than black. So, for the line art, sometimes I'll go in and pick a really dark color, like, let's say this color. See, and you go in, click on the line, and it changes color. So that you don't have to worry about it. Then it kind of just blends in really nicely, and you don't have that harsh black line. And yeah, that's how you do it. Review, shall we? So, you have your drawing, so you do the sketch layer with the pen, and it doesn't matter about the stabilizer. You can just, I usually have it on 3 as a standard, so sketch layer with the pen, and then new word layer, new line work layer. You go in with your pen, and doesn't matter about the size to begin with, and the color, usually black to begin with. That's when you make sure your stabilizer on S7. When your line work's done, you would go to a new layer and fill in your drawing, and then you would fill it, you would do a new layer, multiply, clipping group, and shade with the same color, and then you do another layer, clip it, and that one you make 80% and use a darker color. Then you make a new layer above that, clip it, you luminosity, the same color you use to color your drawing, and you put in some highlights, and then you go back into your layers, use the blur tool or the blend tool, and make small circles, and then here you have heart.